Good afternoon. It's great to be here to close out today's summit, and thank you for having me. This is a really big year for CARB and for California in our work to address pollution and the climate crisis. The policies and regulations we are developing this year are going to set the stage for the next 2 decades as we transition our society and economy definitively away from combustion. Decarbonizing our transportation system is central to this work, and light-duty vehicles will be one of the first sectors to complete the transformation, with Governor Newsom's 2035 goal of 100% new zero-emission vehicle sales just 13 years away. CARB will be drawing on our tried and true policy strategies to realize this vision. Strong enforceable regulations that send clear market signals to manufacturers alongside strategic investments that support technology development and deployment and ensure an equitable transition to zero-emission vehicles. Advanced Clean Cars 2, the next generation of CARB's light-duty vehicle standards, is the regulatory piece of this strategy. The past 3 decades of regulation at CARB catalyzed the development of the clean car market, motivating manufacturers to both make internal combustion engines cleaner and to develop zero-emission technology. The first hybrid car and plug-in hybrids were introduced in the years following the passage of CARB's first zero-emission vehicle standard in 1990. In 2012, the first iteration of our Advanced Clean Cars regulation spurred development of new ZEV technology and laid out a path to our 2025 ZEV sales target, which, as you know, we have already met and exceeded several years ahead of schedule, with ZEVs and plug-in hybrids making up 16% of sales in the first quarter of this year. The early 2010s also marked the founding of the Plug-in Electric Vehicle Collaborative, the predecessor of Veloz, which set the tone for an institution that welcomed all players involved in moving cars to zero emission. California's history of market-driven ZEV regulations has also transformed the state into an incubator for the development of ZEV technology and manufacture. Alongside our regulatory requirements, actions by many partners here today, from innovative developments in ZEV technology, to bold target setting by manufacturers, to dedicated work by our public and private partners on expanding charging and fueling systems, to Veloz's public awareness campaigns, have all combined to accelerate the electrification of California's light-duty fleet. The industry has responded rapidly to this confluence of market pressures, consumer demands, and regulatory requirements. Leading automakers have now announced electrification plans far beyond what many of us would have imagined even a few years ago. Now we are on the cusp of going all the way to zero. ACC2 will build on this legacy by setting the course to 100% zero-emission vehicle sales while ensuring that emissions from remaining internal combustion engines are rigorously controlled. ACC2 is designed to ensure that customers can successfully replace their traditional combustion vehicles with new or used ZEVs and plug-in hybrids, and that all customers have access to zero-emission vehicles that both meet their transportation needs and protect the emission benefits of the program. ACC2 lays out a step-by-step path to the goal of 100% zero-emission vehicle sales by 2035 by requiring a steadily increasing percentage of zero-emission vehicles to be sold in California from 2026 onwards. The proposed percentages will keep automakers on an achievable path to the 100% requirement while providing appropriate flexibilities along the way. Over the multi-year development process for the proposed regulation, staff have in fact increased the percentage requirements for ZEV sales from their initial proposal due to latest automaker projections. Automakers representing the majority of California's vehicle markets have made significant commitments to electrification, which we applaud, with targets ranging from 50% to 100% zero-emission vehicle sales as soon as the 2028 model year. These bold targets bolster the state's efforts to achieve electrification as fast as possible. In addition to setting out year-by-year ZEV sales requirements, ACC2 is designed to ensure that the ZEVs being sold are robust, and well-engineered to provide customers with the features and the confidence to replace their combustion vehicles. The proposed regulation includes provisions to ensure that ZEVs meet customers' needs, including a minimum 150-mile range for new vehicles to ensure that even lower-cost ZEVs can fulfill the daily driving needs of a typical driver, warranty requirements to ensure durable batteries for a decade or more, and transparency requirements to allow consumers to evaluate the health of the vehicle and the battery, as well as charging capability requirements that give the customers the ability to charge at whatever type of charging infrastructure that they have access to. Consumers in low-income and underserved communities, where used vehicle sales are significant, stand to especially benefit from these assurance measures meant to ensure better range and better serviceability throughout the vehicle's life. And that leads me to another important element of our program that sets California apart from other jurisdictions. And that's the work we're doing on integrating equity into our move to zero. We know mobile sources are the greatest contributor of emissions of criteria pollutants and greenhouse gases in California today. And cleaning up these emissions is essential to protecting the health of both of our communities and our climate, particularly along heavily traveled transportation corridors. The clean transportation future we are building needs to be shared by all Californians, and it must address the disproportionate pollution burdens experienced by our frontline communities. ACC2 therefore aims to embed equity and environmental justice in the regulation more deeply than before, and to establish new tools to improve access to zero-emission vehicles for low-income households and communities most impacted by pollution. The regulation includes provisions to continue emissions reductions in conventional vehicles, establish ZEV technology requirements that will help drive down vehicle costs and make ZEVs more usable for all communities, and encourage automakers to place ZEVs in community car share services, retain used ZEVs in the California market for equity programs, and sell lower-priced vehicles. And we're proposing to strengthen these provisions even more in ongoing amendments released this month. But a manufacturer's regulation cannot carry the burden of ensuring that all California communities have access to ZEVs. Our regulatory actions need to work in concert with our other strategies. We are targeting billions of dollars in incentives in ways that benefit the most impacted communities to ensure financial support for lower-income residents to purchase vehicles, working with our sister agencies and private sector partners to provide infrastructure access to all communities, and continuing to provide financial support for programs that expand our focus from zero-emission vehicles to mobility as a whole. All of these strategies are necessary to bring zero-emission vehicles and sustainable mobility to all communities. Importantly, our regulations set the ZEV standard not just in California, but for all of the states that adopt our clean car regulations and electrification commitments. There are now 17 other states that have adopted or have committed to adopt our light-duty regulations. Together, California and these Section 177 states represent nearly 40% of the U.S. new vehicle markets, and ACC2 will thus accelerate electrification across the country. It's critical that all of these states adopt ACC2 and take steps to support the transition to zero-emission vehicles. And we hope this ambitious action by California and our state partners will also continue to drive strong federal action. Adopting ACC2 will make California one of the first and largest vehicle markets to require 100% electric vehicle sales, not just in the US, but anywhere in the world. Many jurisdictions have set ambitious targets to phase out the sale of internal combustion cars. But it's one thing to state your ambition and a more difficult endeavor to show just how you will achieve it. With ACC2, we will be one of only a handful of jurisdictions to set out a legally binding roadmap with annual requirements that show exactly how we will get to zero year by year. Even as we advance our decarbonization agenda here at home, with our partner states and the federal government, we must build partnerships around the globe to develop comprehensive solutions to air pollution and climate challenges. California is proud to help lead the global ZEV transition by chairing the Transportation Decarbonization Alliance, a unique coalition sanctioned by the UN of countries, cities, regions, and companies working to advance real-world solutions to clean up transportation around the globe. Alliance members support one another in setting ambitious goals and collectively advocate for ZEV policies in key international forums. Members also share valuable on-the-ground experience with one another, from strategies for decarbonizing freight and deploying charging infrastructure, to models for innovative transit and active mobility, to plans for corporate sustainability and zero-emission technology development. TDA recently welcomed the city of Los Angeles as its newest member, and we're looking forward to their participation as they share lessons learned, overcome barriers with real-world knowledge, and accelerate the transition to clean zero-emission transportation and mobility. Both globally and here at home, public-private partnerships will be central to achieving a fully electrified transportation sector, and organizations like Veloz are critical to building those partnerships. CARB and our sister agencies are issuing the regulations and making the investments to drive electrification. Automakers and EVSE providers are developing the vehicles and charging infrastructure, but we need consumers on board to bring those efforts to fruition. Veloz has been a leader in raising consumer awareness and building enthusiasm for zero-emission vehicles, and it'll be important for Veloz and its members to continue to engage in these efforts. We're counting on you to help spread the word about the cost savings, durability, and other advantages of EV ownership, and to allay consumer concerns about range or charging availability by communicating all the work we're doing and the incredible success we've had, and also communicating the provisions of ACC2 that will build these strategies into actually legally enforceable requirements. The CARB board held its first hearing on ACC2 in June, and we are slated to adopt the final regulation in August. We released a 15-day amendment package a few weeks ago, and the deadline for comments on that package is tomorrow. So if you have feedback you'd like to share with us, please get that in as soon as possible. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you as we build a clean transportation future together. Thank you for all of the work that you all do on behalf of communities and the climate. Thank you.